You make me itch. You burn my skin. Still you I want to hold. You're so sick, you make me itch. I toss and I'm tired and my fingers twitch. The thought of you, it burns my skin to the bone. And still you I want to hold. Take it back, too much to unpack. The hate in your head and heart that you lack. The thought of you, it burns my skin to the bone. And I can't leave you alone. You're so sick, you're selfish, it's endless. Still you I want to hold. I miss how we used to be weightless. And I can't leave you alone.
Hello, guys. Good afternoon. Welcome to another installment of Touchline Talk with your boy, LNobbins. In today's episode, what I am going to be talking about, or we are going to be talking about, apologies, is the Aston Villa game. Sorry, we can't get away from it. We are going to talk about it a bit more. I wanted to talk about not just the game itself, but also, as alluded to in the title of this stream, like whether the reaction from it has been warranted or not. And of course, we will be looking ahead to the Swansea game as well. I'd like us to do a combined lineup together. What do we want to see? What do we think we will see, given it is the League Cup against championship a championship opponent? I don't actually know where Swansea are. They are in the championship, right? I need to double check that. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy game by any means, but it will hopefully be a good game to, rest certain players and give injured players time. Yeah, so they are mid-table in the Championship. So they are better quality than Huddersfield, of course, who were League One, but we should still be beating them even with a heavily rotated side. And I expect us to do that. So we'll be talking about a lot of those things and more. Ultimate says, plug the merch. Yes, this is some LNobbins exclusive merchandise. I haven't worn this in a while because it's not really been the temperature for it, but it's lovely and warm. And it is a fraud. Yeah, look at that. It's a fraud top. And yeah, I will say that the quality is absolutely ridiculous. And it's very lovely and warm. So the link is in the video description if you want some lovely LNobbins merch. I want to start, though, by talking about the actual Aston Villa game and, as I say, the reaction to it. So let's start with that. Before I do, let me just see how the chat are doing. Hello, Thunder. Maverick is pissed off. Thunderstorm says Thunder says it's no reaction. I don't know why my chat's doing this now. It's doing everyone's @ rather than their thing, because I know this is Spartacus, but it's using your other name, which is like your Twitter handle or something, rather than your visible username. So I don't know why it's doing that. The chat's kicking off. I don't know why. Plug the merch, absolutely. Pez one of the greatest at all time, says Sky. Hello, Tech Freak. Savio gets a goal, everyone shuts up. Hopefully he's able to do that. Once his Shirky starts, says Maverick. If Mamish gets on the score sheet, I'll feel good, says Fenway. Once trash as people say we were, sorry. It's not a regression, but not an overreaction, says Sachin. And Thunder says, hello, Naveen. How are we all doing today? Hopefully we're all doing okay. I've got some really important news, which actually it could change the landscape of how you view me as a human being, and indeed how you view the wider teachings of football. So this is confusing now. So Tech Freak is Yash. So the problem is, Yash, that your profile picture is booty cheeks. This is what I mean. I know this is Spartacus because of his profile picture, because it's interesting. This is Stinky. Can you, get a fun profile picture so I, know who you are? That'd be so cute. If you could do that for me, that'd be so lovely. Thank you very much. Yeah, what I have to, guys, you guys know I like Lego, yeah? You should, exactly, Tech Freak, yeah. I treated myself to some Lego battle packs because I wanted more clones, because I don't have enough clones. So I've got all these boys here ready to go in the setup. Got some bear super battle droids. Look at all. Oh god, I just dropped one. Look at all these B2s, B2 battle droids. You love that. And look at these sick builds that I actually made. These are from custom designers. Look at this. Look at this ATRT, guys. Look at how sick it is. Look at him riding his little thing. How sweet is that? How sweet is that? And look, I made a little crab droid. Look how cute he is. Anyway. Oh, is this a thing, Indigo? So it's not. So this isn't actually a me problem. This is a YouTube problem. Ah, understood. Thank you, Indigo. Indigo Moon 7. See, this is the problem. I feel like you were Jules, but I don't know anymore because of the things. Right. Okay. First thing I want to say is if you watch my analysis video for the Aston Villa game, lovely. Thank you so much. I don't think it was a particularly good video because I wasn't able to put in as much time into it as I would have normally liked to have done. So if you watched that video and you didn't feel it was that good, I apologize. I think it's fine, but I don't think it's as good as my other videos, and I do think there was a time constraints there. So I would like to use the start of this stream at least to maybe go into a bit more detail on like the setup and then and that sort of thing, and then maybe we can intertwine that with a more general conversation about the reaction to the game. I think that's probably where I would like to start. I do have my tactical board. We can maybe bring that up as well. I didn't really properly address how good Villa were in the game, and this is where I'm going to lean into the whole overreaction thing. So that's where I'm going to start, actually, and they'll talk about that. So we'll go in a bit more detail. However, there are lots of people who are, and again, I'm not saying that you can't be upset that we didn't win because, hey, why would you be happy about not winning a game? What I will say, though, is that there has certainly been some quarters who I feel like have strongly reacted to the defeat, but the thing is that these are the sort of like people who will react to any defeat this strongly, and it's almost like there is no room for nuance idea of it has to be one or the other. Like City are either fantastic and the best team in the world, or they're absolute dog shit when they lose, and that clearly can't be the case, can it? So I'm not trying to say that it's good that we lost. I'm not trying to tart up the defeat, but what I am going to say is that City will lose games this season. That just has to happen, obviously. And I think when that happens, we have to more sort of look at the performance rather than necessarily the results in all of those instances. And we will do that, of course. I don't actually think City played that badly across the full 90 minutes. Now, we could have played better, definitely. And I have a lot of concerns about how we played, and I will address those. But I do want to start, caveat everything by saying I don't think City actually played that badly across the 90 minutes overall. And one of the reasons why I don't think that City ultimately won the game was because Aston Villa were very, very, very bloody good in the game. And this is the biggest failing of my analysis video, is I didn't really give Aston Villa too much of a shout out, if you will. A couple of times I said, and he was fantastic and they did fantastic here, but Aston Villa were really, really exceptional in the match, I felt. Certainly defensively anyway. Now, they didn't have to create too much because they scored that wonder goal, of course. But Aston Villa should be really congratulated for how they played. I failed to do that properly. Onana, McGinn, Rodgers, Kamara, in particular, were very good. Even though I don't really rate their fullbacks, I thought the defensively they had a good game. And of course, offensively, they both had a very good game as well. Someone mentioned it earlier, like there were some fantastic last-ditch interceptions blocked by Pau Torres and Konsa. Haaland should have done better with the 1v1 against Martinez, but Martinez still ultimately saved it. So there were some really good performances by Aston Villa, and that is important to bring up. And it's also important to bring up because that makes this not an easy game for City. That's a very good point, Fireborn. That's with the weak foot as well. It is a ridiculous finish by Cash. That should be applauded. And I know that Aston Villa didn't start the season very well, But at the end of the day, they are still a very, very dangerous opponent, especially at Villa Park, especially against City. They've been our Achilles heel for the past couple of seasons. We haven't won there in, I want to say, 4 years. It's certainly the last 3 times we've actually lost against them. I think the time before that we drew. I can't actually remember the last time we won. I don't think Haaland's ever won at Villa Park. I don't think we've ever won with Haaland at Villa Park, unless I'm misremembering a game. I think we've lost 3 and drawn 1 in the last 4. I'm pretty sure. So that's a thing to note, that Aston Villa are very, very good. Not since not since so it has been 4 years. There you go. Now, I'm not saying that that we were doomed to not win, because we played Villarreal, who haven't lost at home all season. We played against Brentford, who at the time hadn't lost at home all season. So we can clearly do that. I'm not saying that this was like an uphill battle that we can never overcome. I just want to try. This is like where I'm trying to address the whole overreaction thing of like it's the end of the world that City didn't win, or lost rather. I don't think we deserved to win. I do think that we probably deserved the points from it. Villa played really, really well. So, and Hazard says, why is it a time to panic? And that's what I'm saying. I don't know if it is a time to panic. That is not the same as saying that City were infallible in the game and we can't pick out some bits. But I just wanted to try to offer some perspective before we started, because I do think that some people, I don't think it's anyone on this channel, in fairness, it's mainly, and it's always online, isn't it? Like on Twitter, etc., blah, 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 blah. You do see the other sides to it, and I just wanted to sort of like bring up that side of things. Do you get what I mean? That's just what I wanted to do in the first instance. So congrats to Aston Villa, sincerely, genuinely. They certainly didn't deserve to lose. And maybe on balance, a draw could have been the fairer result. So that's all that. But ultimately, City, even with all that said, I don't think City were actually good enough across the full 90 minutes. And I do have my concerns. I have my critiques. So I want to go into a bit more detail about that and the wider discussion, re those concerns. Are people looking at red herrings, the wrong end of the stick? And then we'll talk about Swansea. Absolutely. That's the order that I want to try to do it in. So, I think the wingers have been the that's for me. I think that you guys let me know what you think has been the main talking point following that game. I would say that it's probably been City's wingers, which we are going to have to talk about. We are going to have to talk about that. Do I want to start with that, or do I want to start with the midfield that was doomed to fail? I feel like the wingers might take up more time. So that's probably more important. So let's talk about that, shall we? Let's talk about that. Savio didn't have a good game. Bob didn't have a good game either. Of course. As I discussed on the post-mortem and the analysis video, I didn't really get the usage of Savio in the game. Didn't understand it. You guys think the midfield was the bigger issue? No, I actually do. I was just thinking more people are talking about that. Should I start with the midfield then? Well, I guess they're sort of intertwined. Right. No, they're intertwined. We're going to do both. We're going to do both. Sorry, guys. I've got to move all my bloody clone troopers. Look at this. I've got a little staff as well. A little battle droid on the staff. Look how cute he is. Right. Let's do this. Yeah, let's... I want to talk about everything all at once because I think that's going to be better for my brain and hopefully it's better for your brain as well. Please keep your comments coming just because I will be directed by you guys. Absolutely, I will. So this is how City... This isn't how City set up. Hang on. this is not how City set up. Okay, so on ball, this was how City set up. So it was, you know, for like the first 60 minutes or so. I'm going. That's a good point, Reflesh, and I will chat about the wingers as well, because I do think they go hand in hand to an extent. Now, the first thing I want to say is something quite simple and straightforward. I don't get why you would change man of the match right wing Savio to left wing when we know, I'm sorry to flog a dead horse here, but we know that Savio is far more limited at left wing. That is a reality. You can think he's better at left wing if you want, that's fine, but it's also true to say that he's more limited at left wing. He's more... Is limited the right words? I think it is. I think maybe a more PC word would be predictable at left wing. You know what you're going to get with Savio at left wing. What are you going to get with Savio at left wing? All you're going to have is a player who is so hesitant to dribble with their right foot because they have no confidence in doing so, that it is essentially a non-factor RE horizontalness. So when Savio is standing up Cash here, for example, it's like Cash is here, garnering his goal, he basically knows that in terms of like, oh, there we go, it has updated, it's updated. Well done, Tech Freak, with that from you. It's almost a guarantee that if Savio is 1v1 in this area, there's one thing that's going to happen, and Savio is going to run to the byline. That's all that is going to happen, and then ball comes in, blah, 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 blah. That's all that's going to happen. The only other scenario is where, like, you've got an underlapper, and then, like, Savio plays it to him. But assuming that we're in a 1v1 vibe, this doesn't ever happen. If it does happen, nothing happens as a consequence of it. So this makes him far more predictable out on the left side. And I think we saw that. And Fireborn, yeah, Matty Cash was able to read Savio. And why was he able to read him? Because there is no disguise in his actions. Because as like Tech Freak has said there, all he does is beat the man and cross the ball. Now in fairness, there are definitely some games where that is perfectly fine for that to be like the main thing that you're asking Savio to do. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, because we have seen Savio sometimes be able to do that and put in lovely crosses for Haaland. But the problem is that you know as a fullback that is basically all that is going to happen. And when you have like centre backs in Torres and Konsa who had good games, then aerially, defensively, generally speaking, and if the crosses aren't perfect, then you're not going to have the best of times. So that's what you're going to get with Savio left wing. So that's why I didn't really understand the idea of why would you do that? Why would you take Savio away from where he was so good against Villarreal, man of the match for me, and the official man of the match, and then pop him out here? Now, there's one other thing that I want to touch on, and it's something, if you're not following Near Post on... stop calling me Tech... Oh, right, okay. You're going to have to change your @ then, Yash, because... Look what I see. Can you change your @ for me? Because that's going to help my brain. Thank you so much, Yash. I'll try to remember it, but I see Tech Freak and it's there. So try to change your @ if you can. Thank you. If you're not following Near Post on Twitter, I would recommend it, because I think he's one of the best City Twitter accounts out there, personally. Big up to him. This is something that we have discussed on this channel. I feel like he puts it a bit more eloquently, though. I believe we touched on it in the context of the Brentford game. Do you remember when we were saying how I was concerned about the fullbacks because they were not... this is about build-up, in fairness, but I guess they go hand in hand. I was concerned about the fullbacks and their first touch ability, because what that was meaning was that they were giving the ball to our wide players in poor areas. They were not giving them in optimal zones. They were not receiving optimal passes, our wide players. That made it very tricky for them to act as outlets and advance up the pitch. That's why Savio struggled so much. Touching on Savio again, that's why I felt Savio struggled so much against Brentford, I believe it was. Because not only was he not this outlet, a physical like Doku, so it meant that if he didn't receive like a perfect ball, he was able to deal with it. He wasn't able to deal with it. So he wasn't receiving the ball in an ideal area. Now, something that near post has added to the discussion, which I do think I agree with, and against building on this, is that far too often our wide players, who weren't good enough in a vacuum, by the way, that's also worth noting. Like, just because we know that Savio's limited off the left and doesn't want to dribble on his right foot, that's not exonerating him of any blame. By the way, I mean, I mean, touched on Bob, who I felt was horrendous in the match. The problem is that Savio is not a player. Savio is not like Doku. Savio is more like Marmouche. Savio does not really want to be receiving the ball to feet when he dribbles. So I don't know how... It's like a really weird way to try to describe the dribbling, but it's not that weird. Players like Doku, players like Mahrez, are really, really comfortable at dribbling from a stand start. So, where's Jeremy? So Jeremy over here. Let's drop Savio for a second. Jeremy here. He gets the ball over here. He's chilling. It's like a settled bit of play. It's a settled bit of play, and we know that Doku can easily, from a standing start, he can go that way. He can go that way. He can do whatever he wants if he's 1v1, generally speaking. Even without support, of course, it helps better with support. From a standing start, it doesn't really matter. What Savio really needs in order to be a successful dribbler 1v1 is he needs to be dribbling at pace. And he needs to be dribbling whilst the ball is actually moving towards him. So he needs to... So as soon as he receives the ball, he needs to be dribbling immediately. There can't be this receive ball, stop, now I take on my man. Savio is more of a wide player who needs to be receiving a moving ball. That's how I describe it. He's a player who dribbles with momentum. That's what I'm going to say. He's a Oh, have I just coined a new term? Live on Touchline Talk. He's a momentum dribbler. Guys, we are so copyrighting that in before it's already been used for 12 million years. I'm going to say that right now. Savio, the momentum dribbler. He needs the speed of the ball to be working to his advantage. Foden, by the way, I would say is another momentum dribbler. He's not someone who's going to be doing that from a standing start. E-football terms, is that what that is? Is that what that is? It's the same with Foden, as I say. He also needs to be receiving the ball at pace, whereas Doku doesn't really need to do that. Doesn't really need to do. Oh damn! Is that already a thing? Damn, bastards! Oh, we've not coined a new term then. I thought we made something new then. Damn it, man. Well, we're absolutely washed. I'm going to end the stream. And the point that Nearpost was making, which I do tend to agree with, is that the balls he was receiving were not in accordance with his strengths. Whether that was... I do feel like it's less so Foden this season, but sometimes it has been Foden at fault. But like for this game, it's going to be a player like Bernardo, who's technically going to be that left-sided central midfielder. Damn, I swear I don't know anything about eFootball, and yet here we are. Nobbins has actually copied an eFootball thing accidentally. I'm gonna get sued. Because lots of people were comparing, and people still are comparing, Sane, Sterling to Savio, Doku, and we've had conversations about that and why it may not be wholly reasonable to do that. It's not the same as saying you can't expect the more from our wingers, but at the same time, we know that Mahrez was in his prime when he joined us. We know that Leroy Sane literally peaked at 21 years old and his best football was from the ages of 19 through to 21, and from there it was all downhill. We know that Sterling at one point was only being bettered by Messi RE output. So it's not necessarily as straightforward to just compare them like that. But certainly when you like watch those players and you watch the reception that they are getting, some of those passes that they are getting from the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, of course, and David Silva are absolutely insane. Now, Foden's been adding that on a more consistent basis this season, which is nice. We need even more from him, of course. It's never enough, never too much. We also need our other players to be doing that as well. I don't think it's just the midfielders either, by the way. In my analysis video, I touched on this massive disconnect between the right side of that line and the left side of that line. That back five in like the first 60 minutes was just so, I believe, abhorrent at trying to produce anything for our front attacking unit and trying to connect the two. It just didn't exist. It didn't exist. It's absolutely fine to expect more from our wide players and Savio, and I'm not for a moment saying that we can't criticize, because we absolutely can. Of course we can. But we do also, I think, have to do that through the lens of being reasonable. And it can't just be, because if a player is having a man-of-the-match performance in one game and is then stinking up the gaff in another, and then that tells me either that the player is horrendously inconsistent, which may well be the case, in fairness. It may well be the case, absolutely, because young players do tend to be inconsistent. Or, I think maybe a bit more likely, there's something else going on. And I think that it's the environment that needs to be looked at, perhaps, rather than the individualness of the player. And I think this is where it's interesting to talk about, where is the player receiving the ball now? And I think what is maybe an even bigger point, this is, again, something I've discussed with Near Post about, and I totally agree with his point, but what I actually think is even more prevalent and important is something that we've had a conversation about already, which is, let's see if my theory is correct. How many games do you think our right wingers have been, like, great to brilliant? How many games? And can you also try to name the games? I want to test something here. I'm not going to lead the way. I'm not going to influence. I want you guys in the chat to get involved. If you had to think about games this season where you feel like the right winger has been great, you know, what games are you thinking of? Which performances come to mind? I've got a number in my head, and I also want you to say the games as well. Which ones are we saying? Which ones are we saying? Let me know. Okay, so we've got the first one here. We've got Bob against Wolves. Naveen says Villarreal. 2, maybe 3 says Reflash. 2 games, says Sachin. Savio versus Villarreal, Bob versus Wolves. Okay, we're getting the same answers. I agree. I didn't want to what's the term? Influence proceedings there. You guys are all saying Wolves Villarreal. Great. I agree. Bob against Wolves was... yeah, okay, yeah, you beat me to it. Yes. Absolutely. What was happening in those games? And this is where I do think the passing matters, but I actually think that the support system is actually even more important. It is this, isn't it? We know that the right side has been a problem for City all season. It's been a problem. Now, I think the biggest issue has been that Kevin De Bruyne has left the club, of course. And that used to be his, not necessarily the right wing, but certainly the right-hand side of the pitch, like the right half space, whatever. That was his domain, wasn't it? And this is something we've touched on since like match week 4, I want to say. We talked about players needing support, and we talked about that within the context of when Doku was going through that really good period, it was because he was getting that support. And we haven't seen it enough off the right. I've only seen it twice. Bob got it off Reinders in match week 1. Savio got it off Lewis against Villarreal. But we haven't had it at all, basically, all season. Aside from those 2 instances. So I do think, absolutely, just on an individual level, wingers need to be doing better. Because what I've just said there doesn't change the fact that Savio's shooting hasn't been good enough. It doesn't change the fact that Doku, hasn't been shooting enough. I think he actually has a good strike on him, but he's not been shooting enough. Same with Bob. I think it was Bailey who said that Bob's shot volume has been poor this season. That does not change the fact that these players are getting into positions and they're not performing well enough. I think 2 things can be correct. We can be expecting and demanding more from our wide players, but I don't think it's as straightforward as just going that they are clapped, chopped scumbags who are shit at football and they need to be sold. I do think that both things are both things can be correct there. They can be doing better, but we can also be helping them be better also. That's definitely a thing. That's definitely something that can happen. So that's just something that I wanted to touch on about the wingers who, once again, were not good enough. And yeah, I'm not trying to make this a hate off because that's not helpful at all. Okay? But I am... I'm not going to say that I'm concerned with Bob because this is his first full season. So I do want to be patient, but at the same time, I feel like I'm not seeing enough. I feel like when I'm watching Doku, even if like might be a frustrating game, I feel like I can see the vision and I can see, okay, this is good and that's good work. Outside of, and I've just like I've done a whole thing about. There's only been 1 game Bob's played where he's actually got the proper support, so maybe I'm contradicting myself here, in which case I apologise. Same with Savio. Even if there's a game where I feel like he's like underperformed or whatever, I can still see the idea and the concept behind it. I've not really yet seen enough from Bob on an individual level. Repeating that... He hasn't necessarily had the correct support network, and when he has, as against Wolves, he has been playing... He did play very well. But even in those moments, it just hasn't really been enough. And I'll repeat, I don't want to make this a hate-off, but Bob played a far worse game than Savio yesterday, and it is interesting that Savio is the one who's getting all of the hate. I don't think anyone should be getting hate. Players should be getting fair, reasonable criticism. It's just something that I wanted to bring to light. Do you know what I mean? I do want to be patient and I want to be fair, but at the same time, I have to be fair and like sometimes expect more. Even if that is just something as simple as just take more shots. Even if it's something like that because he gets into decent positions, but then he overcomplicates or retains the ball just for like a second too soon, a second too long, second too long. And perhaps that is just like an inexperience thing, and that's something that will come with time. So that's what I wanted to touch on with the wide players. So yeah, definitely we need to be... They just need to improve on an individual level. Of course they do. We also need to be helping them be their best players. Be the best players they can be. Because we've seen it. We know that they can do it. What can we be doing to help them, though? What can we be doing to help them? And a lot of that will fall on Foden, who I think has been doing a good job there. Of course, he can be doing more. Certainly, I need to be seeing Reinders doing a hell of a lot more. He's maybe the one who I'm expecting the biggest boost from, because we had a chat about how this area is being underutilized. We know this has been the problem all season. You know, this isn't just from this game. How many times have we said on this channel over the past few months that this has been the main cause of concern, that right side? This is the domain of Reinders, or it should be. It has been. We saw it. And it's not even like he's been playing in a really deep conservative role. Like, a number of times he's actually technically been playing as like a... Sometimes we've played with 310s this season. With, like, you know, Foden's been like sort of like the central 10, whatever. And then you've got O'Reilly's like the left 10, and then Reinders has that right 10. Maybe those aren't the correct terms, but sometimes it has simply been that. You've had three really offensive central players, and Reinders has, in theory, been tasked with that responsibility. And I'm going to be expecting a lot more. It should be that simple. If Rico Lewis was able to do it in one of the only games he's actually started there, he should be doing more also. You could certainly argue that maybe Foden against Villa should have been doing a lot more for Bob, because he was technically starting as that right central player. I guess my reasoning behind not going too hard in on that was because I've already spoken about the disconnect between the back five and that front five. So that's something that I need to look at. And perhaps is that an area that Shirky could massively help us with? I think it absolutely could be. If we can manage to get him into the... Because here's the thing, and maybe this is like a wider talking point. Like, Shirky's not been able to play as many minutes because he's been injured. That's the first thing to say. But if we go back to that Spurs game, and maybe this is where I got it totally wrong. Maybe this is where I got it totally wrong on Shirky. Whatever Pep City think about his, you know, off-ball presence in the midfield, and I still think that based on what I saw at Lyon, I still think that would be a concern. I don't want him to have to play in right central midfield off-ball, because I don't want to have to... I don't want to give him that much defensive burden, but let's throw it back. Let's run it back to, what was that midfield against Spurs? It was Nico, Reinders, Shirky, wasn't it? Now, there were injuries. Of course there were. But there weren't a lot of... there weren't so many injuries that he had to play Shirky in the centre. Right? So if Pep was willing to go with a midfield of Nico, Reinders, Shirky, and if Foden this season has illustrated that he has been a far better off-ball midfielder than Reinders, then is there a world in which Pep does just go, well, if I'm willing to play a midfield of Nico, Reinders, Shirky, why wouldn't I play a midfield of Nico, Foden, Shirky? Because I'm sorry, based off the start of the season, the latter is actually going to be a lot more stable than the former. Is that something that could actually be a genuine situation? I never thought I'd be saying that. However, like off ball. However, again, the simple reality is this: Foden's been better than Reinders off ball. So you're not losing anything defensively by doing that. You're increasing it defensively. Is that a solution? Is that too gung ho? Perhaps. I don't know. But if he was able to do Nico, Shirky, Foden, why can't he just swap out? Why can't he just swap out Foden instead? I don't know. Maybe that's something to explore. I'm not sure. I'm still not convinced on that, by the way. This is thinking out loud. But hey, why can't that happen if he was willing to do that? Because the one I've said is actually stronger. That's the wide players. Yeah, so the midfielders against Villa Where's my team? I feel like, do I have enough players on the pitch? Hello, where's Nico gone? Nico wasn't on the pitch. Wait. No, it was that, wasn't it? Where have I put Bernardo? There he is. What else do I want to talk about? Pressing was really weird. The pressing was really weird against Villa. So this season, we've mainly been playing this 4-1-4-1 or 4-3-3, depending on where the ball is, basically. At times, it was this. Which is weird. Didn't like this. Weird. At times, it was this. I'm going to say even more intense, though. It wasn't even a 4-1-4-1. It was like a 4-1-5, I'm going to say. Weird. Even worse. Because Villa, in their 4-2 build-up, right? Do that, and then they just sometimes drop one D, and then you have all these pacey lads. So City commit bodies forward like that. Got it. Push up there. Okay. Yeah, let's say something like that. Let's give it the ball to Martinez, or let's give it to Torres, why not? Now, yeah, sometimes there was this, which is whatever. Sometimes it got even worse. Or uber aggressive, and sometimes it was like that. What do you notice about this picture, chat? What is the problem with what you see on your screen right now? What do you reckon? Because I promise you, sometimes this shit was happening. In that first half in particular. What do you reckon? 4-4-2, says Shane, exactly. Yeah. There is no midfield. Look at this. Look at this fucking chasm. It's just like... Those at times, when Villa were building up, yeah, no midfield. At times, Reinders would get sucked in. Reinders would get sucked in because he's not a defensive midfielder, so I think that his instincts overtook him. So he should have been like positioned here, whatever, but he just joined the forward press. This is Ten Hag ball. I'm not even exaggerating. Sometimes against Villa, that happened. That's a very good point by Herbal. Take into consideration put Adonana, this is criminal. Now, I'm not being funny. This is mental at the best of times, and I think that Herbal's lined it out perfectly there. One of the biggest concerns I had in the tactical preview was Villa build up in a 4-2, they bait the press, and then they will hit you with their really intense physical transitional players. Okay? That is a concern. So that's exactly what happened. They built up with that 4-2, and then like it would often be like Buendia drops back to sometimes make it a back seven in build-up. And then all that has to happen is Onana receives the ball, gets away from Bernardo, or gets away from Foden, or gets away from Reinders, whatever the 1v1 is. And then, what do you know? John McGinn and Rodgers and Watkins are tearing it up at pace. Because we just abandoned the midfield. It was really weird. Now, again, the reason why I'm not like, overreacting too much is maybe that was just because Reinders got sucked in. He clearly wasn't familiar with the role, because we know he's not a defensive midfielder. I was staggered he played there in the Club World Cup. because he's not a 6. It was something I said. Now, and again, something else I was wrong about. Now, he'll never be able to play as an out-and-out defensive midfielder. I think that was like a bar-for-bar line from my Reinders analysis video. First game, he plays as a defensive midfielder. Okay. But this is why I was concerned about that. And there's only too far we can go about criticizing Reinders for that, because he's not a defensive midfielder. So this is why it's a really hard game to properly have a look at, because let's be honest, unless both Rodri and Nico become injured again, and we can maybe even add Kovacic to that if when he comes back to full fitness, is Reinders ever going to be asked to do that again? Perhaps not. So is this even like a relevant thing to talk about? Perhaps it isn't. Maybe we will literally never see it again. But I just thought that was funny. Like the worst game for it to happen in, and it just happened. I just thought that was really funny. It's just something that I wanted to bring up there. So that happened. That was, you know, that was cute. That was cute. That was funny. That happened. That was a thing. Yeah, exactly, Fireborn. I think it is just a one-off match. It's not. I don't think it's something to get bogged down about and something to get massively concerned over. But it is nevertheless funny to bring up, and that happened. So yeah, that's what I wanted to touch in a bit more detail in my analysis video. Hopefully, this is a bit more interesting and useful. Pretty irrelevant, yeah. I think so, Fenway. I think so. What? Yeah, that does lead into the pressing though, which even when Reinders was holding his position, it did feel like a lot of the City players were confused. Do you know what I mean? It looked like a lot of these players were not comfortable with what their role was. A lot of that was off the right side as well. I think someone touched it with Bob. Bob clearly did not know what he was doing. Now, is that a fault of Bob? Is it a fault of the instruction, though? Because Bob wasn't the only player who was confused. Now, here's the thing. If you are a student... No, sorry. If you are a teacher and all of your class, and only one person in your class fails, but the rest pass, then you've done a good job. And it's probably that student's fault or whatever, or that students are struggling. However, if a lot of your students are failing and barely any are passing or none are passing, then that's the fault of the teacher. So what am I trying to say here is that it wasn't just Bob who was confused. There were a number of players who clearly didn't understand their role. So I would contend that in that instance, it's actually more so the person giving the instructions than the actual players for not being sure as to what they're doing. Because it wasn't just Bob. Sometimes Foden wasn't sure whether to come or go. Same with Bernardo. Sometimes he was leading the press with Hall and sometimes he was backing off. Nunes was so perplexed as to where he was supposed to be standing. So yeah, we can blame the players on an individual level for maybe not being that good off ball. But if so many are confused, is that not a problem with the instruction? And Guardiola / Linders, whoever you think it's going to be. This has been a big recurring problem. I think whilst we can say that the gap in the midfield is an irrelevance for this game, I do think that this is the first time I pressed like this, but this isn't the first time this season where City's players have looked unsure as to what their role is off ball, or it's just not worked entirely. And that for me is a bit of a concern and a bit of a cause for concern. So there we have it. So solutions. What are solutions? Well, a solution is obviously to let's like get this. I can't look at this shit anymore. I need to put these players back into their normal positions. I'm getting upset. Looking at this for too long. So we had a chat about how how can the offense be improved? Because I think that we were okay going forwards against Villa. It wasn't exceptional, and I would have loved us to do a bit more, but I don't think it was a disastrous on-ball performance, because I do feel that we forced them to do some mad good defending and mad good clearances. Onana, Kamara in particular, Torres Contra in particular were absolutely wonderful in that regard. It can still be improved, though. I think one way to do that... exactly, Fireborn, exactly. We're not going to see this again, are we? One way to do that is to... please... if we are having Foden and Reinders on the pitch at the same time, I think we now have to... I think most people are already on this anyway, but surely now, please, can I have my Foden left of centre? Because that's where he's been playing his best football all season. Can I please have that? And can I please have Reinders right of centre? And can we please instruct him to actually attack this fucking area? Like he did against Wolves. That'd be great. Because we know that that's an area that needs to improve. And Reinders can be that guy in doing that. I've seen him do it for Milan and Netherlands to great effect. I've seen him do it at City to great effect against Wolves. I need more of it. So can you please have that from now on? That's something that I'd like to see. Of course, and we know that a proper defensive midfield... Well, Nika's not proper. You know, one of our 6 options is actually going to be there. And then I think once we've settled... totally agree, Matali. That was the thing as well. If you play Foden right of centre, first of all, that's fine, but you have to access him enough, and we didn't do that nearly enough. He's been a far better creator, an overall player, off that left side, and even though Bernardo technically created the best chance of the game, I feel like we were hindering ourselves by not having Foden play off the left, because the angles are so much better for him there. And he is better at that than Bernardo. So we should be enhancing Foden to the detriment of Bernardo rather than the other way around. Do you get me? That's what I think anyway. So that's what should be happening. So I want to see Foden basically always left of centre from now on, please. Thank you very much. If you're going to play him right of centre, not a problem, but don't make Bob his partner. Like, make it a more traditional outlet. Make Savio his partner. Make Nunes his partner. That can be a thing, can't it? Maybe introducing Shirky at some point is going to be a lovely thing also, wherever that may be. And of course, like we know, bringing in Nico or Rodri is also going to shore things up. But there are some things that we can do. Give me like an actual... I'm sorry, Bob, you might have to sit this one out for a little bit. Give me an actual outlet if you want to do that. Please start Doku, who is lovely also. That's what I'd like to see. I think that's definitely right, Fenway, and this is definitely correct. And I think this, I believe it was an attempt to mitigate the inevitable defeat of the physical battle. Well, so basically, we know that we are going to lose the physical battle, so let's try to win it in a different way. And let's try to win it by suffocating them and overpowering them. Now, unfortunately, outside of the first 10-15 minutes, that didn't work. And ultimately, what it led to was this situation. Oh, gosh. There we go, sorry. Was this situation. Which is something I showed in the analysis video. Where of the top 6... The top 6 best duelers on the pitch are ground duels anyway. Big up to Ruben Diaz for actually being exceptional in the air for the past few games. Big up to him. RE ground duels won. We got absolutely decimated. Only one of our players was in that top 6. Top 6. And it wasn't even our defensive midfielder. Look at Onana, man. What a cutie. An absolute guy. I would have loved Onana. I'd have loved him. Maybe he's the sort of profile that we should be going for next summer. So it led to a situation like this. So sadly, it didn't work. That's a concern, I think. That's a concern. Conversely, look at the bottom 6. And it paints a worrying picture. Ari that match. In isolation, of course. But this is pretty mad in it. That is pretty mad. One off game. He won't play in defensive midfield again. But it just goes to show that the pressing strat didn't work. It didn't work. Because if the idea was to try to make it so that we don't even have to engage in a battle of the duels, it made us insecure at the back. It made us too easy to expose, and it just didn't even have the desired effect of getting rid or eliminating or mitigating a duel, making this a duel contest. There's one starter in that. Sorry, one starting outfield player in that top 6, and it's my defensive midfielder, and yeah, it's a thing. But hey ho. How tall is he? He's quite tall, isn't he? 6 foot something. I feel like he's quite tall, Reinders. He looks quite tall. He looks lanky anyway. I feel like he's 6 foot something. He's only 5'10". Only. That's still quite tall. It's 5'10". Is that 2 inches off 6 foot? I feel like it is. He's not as tall as I thought he was then. Okay. For some reason, I had it in my head that he was 6 foot or 6'1". But no, so he's a tall 5 foot. But misses out on the 6. I thought he was taller than that. I think it's just because he's a lanky lad, so he looks taller than he actually is. Do you get me? I always thought he was a bit taller than that. Interesting. He's obviously taller than like Shirky and Foden. How tall is Shirky? I'm gonna say Shirky is 5'9", because I know Foden's 5'7". I feel like Shirky's a little bit taller. 5'10". So Shirky's the same height as Reinders. Hello? Lads, shall we convert Shirky into an aerial monster for real? How interesting. I didn't know that. Well, Shirky's a bit taller than I thought, and Reinders is a bit shorter than I thought. Huh. How interesting, guys. How interesting. That's according to Wikipedia, to be fair. Like, that might be well wrong. Because, to be fair, didn't they also say that Trafford's height was 6'6"? And they were wrong there as well. So, that's according to Wikipedia. That is one Google search. That might be wrong. That might be wrong. Oh, dear. Okay. Is there anything else I want to talk about the Villa game? Because I do want to also make I want us to make a lineup for Swansea, and then we can just like have a general chat about any other takeaways. Like this more general rather than specific. But anything else specifically that we wanted to chat about the Villa game? I think that we've covered a decent amount of it. I was a bit perplexed by the moving of certain players. We've chatted about the wingers not being good enough individually, but at the same time, need a bit more support. Chat about, of course, like the midfield, which was doomed to fail. Move on forever. Ryan, this is not 5'10", he's 6'1", says Seagag. Well, you write to Wikipedia and tell them that they are underselling him, because I felt that he was 6 foot something. They're underselling him, yeah? I'll be doing my short video like after this. I just didn't have time to do it yesterday for a number of reasons. Big up to you, Thunder Road, for picking up the likes. Anything we did right? I think that it was another very good game for Ruben Diaz, which is good. So he did really well. We chatted about the aerial duel situation. He did really well. Nunes generally, I thought put in like a good game. Anything else that we did right? We looked better in the final 30 minutes. That's good. That is good. We didn't give away stupid... This is going back to the title of the stream. I don't think that City were actually bad in this game. I do think there were some good moments. This isn't like the Brighton game. I could not pick out a positive. I could not pick out a single positive from that game. I actually do think there were some positives from that game, from the Villa game, though. I do think that sometimes we did attack and looked decent at times, of course. Whilst I felt that Foden could have done a bit better with some of his passing, like there was one where he receives it in a great where he receives it, dribbles out of danger, fantastic work, but then he overhits it to Haaland, and he thinks that Haaland's got like the first touch of Riyad Mahrez. So some good moments there. Finer, it's more about the finer details. Once again, we know that he can't just do everything. He's currently being expected to do that, which is a bit mad. Yeah, I just thought that we looked a lot better when that happened. So, when those subs happen. So that is hopefully a promising sign that we can do that. Definitely agree, Fenway. I don't think we played badly against Spurs either. I think Brighton is the only game where I'm comfortable in saying that we played badly. Like, properly badly. That's not the same as saying every other game was perfect. But definitely, we were bad against Brighton. There were positives from Spurs, positives from Monaco, positives from Wasp got caught in a spider web. What a dickhead. Yeah, positives from Villa, I think. And also all that context. Shall we chat about Swansea now, then? Because I think that we've touched on as much as we realistically can for Aston Villa, unless you guys can think of anything else. Let's pivot now to what do we want the lineup to be against Swansea? Because there won't be a tactical preview for a League Cup game. I'm not going to lie to you. There ain't going to be one of them. So what do we want to see? What do we think should happen? Let's work from the back, shall we? Shall I just get rid of all these? What even is... Oh my god, I've accidentally spawned a Villa player. I'd say what, it felt like there were 12 players on the pitch, didn't it? Because Villa were all over the place against us. Goodness me. Yeah, let's have a chat about this, shall we? So. Let's just move all the players off the bench first of all. And see how we're doing. Donnarumma is obviously not going to start. That would be insane. Trafford's in. Of course he is. Gene Sancho did pop up like that, yeah. Seagag raised a good point. We're going to play our second team. Yes, so what's the vibe for this game? We have some tricky games coming up. I believe that we play Bournemouth at home, Dortmund at home, and then... Wait, is it 3 away games in a row? And then is it Liverpool at home? There's got to be an away game in there, hasn't there? Let me double check. Maybe there isn't. No, there isn't. It is 3 games in a row after this at home. Okay, that's lovely. But they're not easy. Even though they are at home, Bournemouth, Dortmund, Liverpool, and then away against Newcastle. But there is an international break there. So let's just focus on those 3 games. So we've got 3 tricky home games coming up. What should the aim be? Exactly, Fireborn. We need to focus on players who need fitness. Players who need sharpness. Because against those trickier sides, I think we have to beat Bournemouth at home. We simply must. That is a must win. And I don't want it to be, guys, but guess what? Because of how good Arsenal have been this season, if we want to win the title, yes, Liverpool at home is a must-win, especially given their concerns. That is now a must-win. It has to be, given the context of our poor start and losing against Aston Villa and the fact that Arsenal are still yet to drop points in a significant manner. So, what can we do? What do we need to do? We need to think about players who need minutes, players to get back up to full sharpness. Can anyone please give me an update on Ait-Nouri? Is he, like, available? Because he was not, I'm just double checking, he was not on the bench. He was not on the bench against Aston Villa. I don't know what the latest update is there, but he was not even on the bench against Villa. He was on the bench against Villarreal. He's 100%, he said he's ready. Okay, in that case, it is non-negotiable for me. If he's ready, I think he has to start. Definitely. Definitely he has to start because he has not played a game of football since his injury. In fact, I don't think he's had a minute of football since his injury because he didn't even come on against Villarreal, did he? Let's just double check. Yeah, and he wasn't even on the bench against Everton. So yeah, he has not played football since Brighton. So he has to start, definitely. And I believe, even though I love Nico O'Reilly, I still think that the highest ceiling of this team is one that includes Ait-Nouri in it. So Ait-Nouri has to play. Ake also has to play. Let's give Gvardiol a rest, please. Please. Definitely. I'm looking to bring in players who need to play minutes, and Ake is another one who I don't think has played since Brentford. Let me double check. No, sorry, Everton, my bad. It was Everton he played, not Brentford, apologies. Yeah. So Ake also needs to play. Has to happen. It's going to be too early for Kusanov to start, which is upsetting, because this would have been a great game to reintroduce him. But he's not going to be able to start. So, because I think Pep only said that Kusanov is, he's back in training, blah, blah, blah. I'd be amazed if he's actually able to start, though. Yeah, from the sound of it, Kusanov ain't ready. So I'm not going to predict Kusanov to start based on that. So I'd suspect, therefore, it should be Stones to play. Give Diaz a rest also. Pep said he's ready, says comment creator. Oh, you guys are giving me mixed reactions. Someone's saying Kusanov not ready, but he is ready. I'm going to predict that Kusanov actually isn't ready because he's not even made a bench. At least Ait-Nouri has made a bench. Kusanov hasn't even made a bench. Yeah, maybe Kusanov can be brought on as a sub. Absolutely. Hopefully he makes said bench. We'll come back to the right back because Lewis has to start. It'll just be interesting to see where do we actually want him to do so. So what are the other players? So Haaland absolutely needs to be rested. Marmoush must start. He must start. Now, I actually don't... This might be much of a muchness. Could we do something like we did against Huddersfield, where Mukasa played as a false nine option, perhaps? In which case, do we even want Marmoush to be starting centrally? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop on the players who I think need to start, and then we'll work from there. Maybe that's the better way to do it. Definitely Shirky. Maybe Kovacic. Probably Bob. Perhaps Kovacic. If Kovacic can start. Actually, no, wait, Nico. Nico might need to start, Where's Nico gone? There he is. What do you reckon? Do you reckon Kova DM to give him minutes? Or do you think that Nico should, because Nico obviously got injured and only played a few minutes. He only played 30 against Villa. What do you reckon? Do you think we should give Nico a full start, or do we give him a full rest? Because at some point, it has to go from getting the sharpness and minutes back into the legs. He only played 30 minutes against Villa. So do we want to give Nico a start here? What do you guys reckon should be the option in defensive midfield? Let me know. You guys think Kova? Nico does not need to start. Nico is vital. He is absolutely Sachin. You're not wrong. 45 for Nico. Rest Nico. Maybe bring him on. Maybe give him like a second half or give him 30 minutes perhaps. I don't disagree. Bring him on at half-time. Kova, let's go for Kova then. Let's go for Kova and say that Nico should come on for like 30 or so minutes. If that's fair as Fenway. I think I can accept that. I think I'll agree. Where's Kova gone? I'm so blind. There he is. Okay. Now. I know Nunes has played a lot of football, but I might be wanting him to start at right back still. Because Lewis has to play, in which case that would be in mid... I'd rather him just play in midfield. Like, you know, where he played against Huddersfield, sorry. So that's probably what I'd like to see as well. Yeah, I think so. I'm just trying to think, where do I want Cherki to play? Ideally, maybe I don't want to do that, actually. Because ideally what I want Cherki to play where Lewis is. I want to play Cherki in right of centre. Because I want to... He only played there a little bit against Spurs. I want to give him like a full match there, preferably. Certainly against an opponent like this. We also know he's capable of playing false 9. But that's boring. I don't want him to be used there. Cherki right wing, says Fireborn. I think against Swansea, I'd like to see him central. Foden will play. I wasn't gonna consider Foden, to be honest. But again, he did play against Huddersfield. Maybe you're right. Let's pop Mukasa there for a second, just because it's not essential that he plays, is it? Lewis will play right back and invert. In which case, that would be doable, wouldn't it? And then what? You'd have, what, Mukasa was like the false 9. Marmouche off the left. Bigger to Arn, thank you so much, mate. Do you think we have a first team and a second team? There's definitely players who are in the first team picture, definitely. Yeah, like, so for example, Rico Lewis is not an out-and-out main starter for City. So there are definitely some players who are seen higher in the pecking order. That's not necessarily like we have an exact first 11 and an exact second 11. But definitely, yeah. Thank you so much for your super chat, matey. And your random footballer is... Oh, no, wait, what's this? Oh! If you super chat a certain amount, you know, sometimes you get a fortune cookie. Well, I've added another thing. Sometimes you get a random movie quote as well if you super chat. This... Oh... I'm sure you guys know this. This is a great meme. Here's a fortune for you, Arn. You know, I'm something of a scientist myself. And that, of course, is from Spider-Man 2002. What a film. That's the first quote where I knew it without actually seeing the film because it's such a meme. I'm something of a scientist myself. So if you super chat, you get a random movie quote, depending on the amount as well. Big up to you. Right, what was I doing? Yeah, I want Cherki to play. Ideally, I would like to play him in the centre, just because why not? It's only Swansea, so why the hell not? I'd like to rest Foden, but what do you guys reckon? Do you think that he should play? O'Reilly DM. Oh, so you think like O'Reilly in the middle? Shut up, Punched Bicycle. What, do you think something like that? I'd like Savio to start. I'll be honest. What do you reckon? I'd like to rest Foden. Personally. I think this strikes a good balance. What do you reckon? You want Lewis in midfield instead, says Josh. Phone Shirky to start together, says Feedy. Maybe just play Nunes right back. Savio needs to play right wing. Yeah, I want Savio at right wing. Fenway, no. Bob needs more game time, says Metalli. Perhaps that could be a thing. In which case you just swap out Savio for Bob, wouldn't you? Maybe. Perfect time to trial Foden and Shirky, but I wouldn't mind resting him. I agree, JFL, I agree. Move Mikasa to 8, says Sachin. Put Doku on. So what, you do that, and then drop, what, like O'Reilly? Play Doku. I mean, the good news is there are options. I quite liked what we had earlier. That this is going to be the team that I would like to see personally. Well, I would like to see. Has Lewis ever played left of centre though? I don't know if he has. I don't know if that's going to confuse things. Right. This is what I would like. Let me explain myself. And on ball, we're going to double invert the fullbacks, yeah? Like that. You get me? That's what's going to happen. Actually, no, I don't want to do that. I want to invert one fullback. I want to drop O'Reilly. I want to push up Ait-Nouri. And we're going to see rotations where Marmoush and Ait-Nouri can do that as a vibe. So you got Marmoush technically second striker vibes. Bop. That's what I'd like. That'd be a fun team. 2-3-5. One fullback inverts. The other pushes up. / rotates with Marmoush. Mukasa, false 9 situation. Marmoush making runs off him. Shirky playing those balls in behind. Savio being the boy. Stable enough midfield, rest defence-wise. Not too much tracking back for Lewis to do to get back into right back. Bop. That's what I'd like to see. Something like that. I think this strikes a good balance of having a lot of seniority on the pitch, whilst also getting minutes into the legs of players who need it. Because Trafford has to start. I think Ake has to start. Lewis has to start. Probably Kovacic has to start. Marmoush has to start. Ait-Nouri has to start. I think a lot of these players simply have to start. And maybe you can have a chat about, should Savio play or could it be Bob? Should Foden play instead of O'Reilly? I quite like the idea of giving Foden a rest, though. Needs another academy, lads. Oh, I've just realised I got the wrong Nico on the pitch. That's supposed to be O'Reilly, my bad. There you go. That's supposed to be O'Reilly, not Nico Gonzalez. So there's a few academy. How many academy players are there? 1, 2, 3. There's still 3. It's decent. Decent. If you bring on Bob, that's 4. If Ake didn't need minutes, I'd push for Mifune to get a start. But I don't know, because the thing is, we're playing a championship team. And I know it's only the League Cup, but I still want to win the competition. I still want to win the game. And we didn't even do that against a League One team. We only played Mukasa as the true academy player. We didn't even bother with anyone else against them. And we know that Pep wants to keep his senior players happy. Stone's playing another game. That's a risk. It is. It is. It is absolutely. He looked rusty against Everton. He did. Yeah, Ake definitely needs to start. No doubt there for me. No doubt there. And if Kusanov were available, hey, I'd love to pop him in instead of Stones. But yes, he hasn't even made a bench yet, so I'm not sure I would like to do that. You think Kusanov will start subbed off during the second half? That'd be fairs, MV. That'd be fairs. Someone who will play physical. Not wrong. They probably will. You want Diaz instead of Stones as Fireborn? Could be a thing. I don't think it'll be too dissimilar to this. I think that a good number of that starting 11 will be playing against Swansea. And we will be doing a watch along for that as well tomorrow. So make sure to join me for that. I don't even know what time kickoff is. It's a weird time, isn't it? Like 7:30 or something. It is 7:45. 7:45 kickoff. So we will be there. We will be there tomorrow for that, and it'll be a lovely time. It'll be a lovely time. Had by all. Because the cup matches are more vibes, I feel like. Because I'm less stressed. I'm less stressed. Because it's not like the Premier League, innit? Who the hell knows of Pep Roulette? Very good points. To be fair, Fenway, like I've actually been pretty decent with my predictions. I think that I've been averaging like 8 or 9 this season. And maybe that, and yeah, in fairness, we have had limited options, but still, it's been all right. It's been all right. So yeah, maybe we'll do something like that. I'm not sure. But some of my whatever shape you want, my non-negotiables are Shirky, Marmouche, Ait Nori, Lewis, Ake, Trafford. And I'd even throw Kovacic in there. And I'm even going to throw Mikasa in there as well. These are like my that's Ryan Ait Nori, Lame Guna. These are the players who I think should absolutely be starting, no questions asked. I really think that. And there's quite a lot of yellow there. There's quite a lot of yellow there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8? Yeah, 8. I feel like all of these players need to start. They need to start. Every single one. If they don't, I'll be confused. I'll be quite confused. And then from there, you can do whatever. Yeah, Joshua, because otherwise, when's Mikasa going to get minutes? Like, he's never going to play otherwise. Surely this is the game for him to play in the League Cup, right? Especially because Haaland ain't going to play. And we know that Mikasa can do a job at false 9. Why not? Why not? Justice fulfilled. Didn't Pep say himself that he ain't starting? He's like, he's travelling, but he ain't starting. I mean, how ropes is it that you're never going to be starting in a League Cup game against Championship opposition? That's crazy. That is a madness. Free Phillips. Hey, man. He had the chance to go. He had the chance to go. He didn't want to or whatever. So, has Phillips even made like a Premier League squad? Shirky needs to back a goal assist to let Pep know he's a worthy starter, says Josh. I think that Pep already knows that Shirky's a worthy starter, but of course he has been injured. So he's not been able to start. Literally, Pep started him in one of the games where I was like, there ain't no way that he should ever be starting this game. And yet here we are. So I don't think there's a concern about Shirky becoming a starter in this team. Joshua, I'd love to see them at some point, mate. I'm a bit disappointed we didn't see Mafuni against against Huddersfield. But hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. You know what I mean? So yeah. There we go. Phillips less likely to see the pitch than me. I'm not being funny to Shirky. I'm not being funny to Phillips. Like, it's sad what's happened to him, whatever. But there's no reason to give Phillips minutes. Because it's not like you're developing him to be anything. Now, that's just a dead asset. I'm sorry. That is a dead asset that you've got to cut your losses with. There is no point. It's like when I play Football Manager and there's a player who's like 36 who I know I'm not going to have next year. I just basically banish them from the squad. Because what's the point of you? You're not going to do anything. You're not good enough to play now. You're not going to be here next year. If I give you minutes, I'm wasting... I would literally rather play an academy player than you. You know what I mean? My 36-year-old veteran centre-half. Get out of here. And the whole dressing room shouts at me because I've ostracized him from the thing, and then I, get sacked or whatever. But I do it every time, yeah? That's interesting. Singular City. You'd be surprised if Pep starts Shirky. Why is that? I feel like he's got to start him, hasn't he? He's got to start him. Quicker we can get Shirky into the starting 11 with Foden, the better. The better. If we're playing more home games in the Cups, we'd see more academy players, says Josh. Probably, matey, probably. Yeah, it's just a shame because it's the magic of the cup. It's always going to be a little bit trickier. You're definitely right there. You are definitely right there. You should show more respect. Hell no. He can hold that. He can hold that, honestly. How would Ake, Mifune, Akinori, and O'Reilly start in the same team? They wouldn't. They wouldn't. Nunes in midfield, says Nicholas. Is there a point of playing Nunes in midfield? Because I think we've now gone beyond the point of him ever being able to play in midfield for City on a realistic basis. So wouldn't it make more sense to just like play him in the position that he's going to be useful in for City? And that to me is right back. It's like Marmouche, you know. In general, the reason why I wouldn't want him to play centrally is because generally speaking, he won't be playing centrally. It's only like when Haaland isn't able to play that's a thing. And right now, there's a potential another option there in Mikasa who can play false nine. So I'd rather probably play Marmouche in the dynamic that he'd be playing in more generally. It's going to be very tough, Lonnie, yeah. Thankfully, there's an international break after those 3 Premier League games. So we can, you know, feign some injuries, not go on international break and have a vibe, you know what I mean? Have a little chill sesh. Nunes, absolute emergency midfield. Yeah, definitely. I don't see why. I wouldn't like to do it because it's so obvious now that he can't do it. And it's never going to work for him. So why even bother wasting minutes on him in midfield? I'd rather play like someone who actually has a chance there. Oh, goodness me. Can Stone start? Again, maybe not. Ninos, maybe not. Ideally, it would be Kusanov. And maybe Diaz will go in there instead. So yeah, maybe that is a bit more realistic. I do feel like Diaz needs a rest, though. Because he actually has been very, very good this season. He actually has been very, very good. AFCON December, Aitnori and Marmouche going away. I mean, in fairness, we've played without them for this long, so... Oh, that'd be very frustrating to get back into the side. Oh, yeah, they're back. Bam. See ya. Oh, dear. Right, guys. We've been live for around 90 minutes. Any other... I've been on my tactical board for so long. Lazy boy. I'm a lazy boy. Any other questions or thoughts that we may have? Let me know. Do you guys want to see another ATRT that I made? Look at this cutie. Look at him. Look at how sick he is. Riding his little thing. What a cutie. Needs to chill and spamming that one knee to the ground move. Who's that, Ruben? Why am I sitting in the far corner? Because I put myself in the bottom right. I'm just slouching. I'm chilling. I'm in a vibes mood. You know what I mean? I'm chilling. I'm just I'm vibing. You know. Is Roger not extending his contract? You guys know anything about this? As singular. I heard. I mean, I heard that we were going to get some news about it last week, but that hasn't materialized, so perhaps not. I haven't, Fenway. I'm not gonna lie. I won't be watching it either. If you see my YouTube history, it's full of like Lego. What do we do if United finish above City this season? They won't, Nero. Don't worry, they won't. I know that United right now, they're like same points as whatever, and they're being actually weirdly good recently. We're still at the stage of the season. We're still at the stage of the season where the table hasn't quite established itself. It's looking more reasonable. Like some of these positions will be similar. Like, we can see some patterns forming. At the same time, I'm sorry if this sounds arrogant, Sunderland will not be finishing in the top 4 this season. And I don't care. Like, you can quote me on that. Sunderland are not finishing in the top 4. as an example. There's no way City aren't finishing outside of the top 4 either. That is happening. That is a thing. There's no way Liverpool are finishing as low as 7th. Bournemouth aren't finishing 2nd either. Spurs aren't finishing 3rd. Not happening. So we can see some patterns, but we haven't even played double-digit games yet. We're not even a quarter of the way through the season yet. So, exactly, Fenway. The vast majority of the season is still there to be played. It's all good. It's not a problem for me. Arsenal will lose more games this season. They will draw games as well. There will be an opportunity for us to overtake them. The question is, can we be there in that moment? And it's still not the end of the world. We still are the leading goal scorers. Joints now, but we are still the leading goal scorers. Still got one of the best defensive records in the league, of course. Joint second best, it looks like. Villa's a tough game, of course, and we will be we'll be fine. I can't be convinced that we're finishing worse than last year. Where did we finish last year? Was it 3rd? It was, wasn't it? I don't know why we'd finish worse than last year, because let's be honest, whatever you think of that Aston Villa performance, and the standards are quite low, we are a hell of a lot better this season than last, even on the limited evidence we have. That's a fact. I don't know what the points totals were last year, but I can just tell in the performances, we are a lot better than we were last year, and it will take some time. We've gone from one of the oldest squads in the league to one of the youngest squads in the league overnight. And that tells me that a lot of players have gone out, a lot of players have come in, and it's a transformative time right now at City. So I'm just going to be patient and trust that the league table will reflect how I feel that we should be ending the season, sorry. Do I think Arsenal will lose anytime soon? I don't know what their fixtures are. But they definitely will lose some games, definitely. But HSV, it's not actually about losing games. It's more about winning games. That's more important. Where do you think Chelsea will finish? Maximum 5th, I'd say. Maximum 5th. Yeah, much better than last season. Definitely. Yeah, let's get the 115. You know what? It's never that deep. I actually think for this squad, I actually prefer it as well. For this squad, I prefer it. And yet, we've not really seen it, which is surprising to me. They will drop points, of course they will. Like, I know Arsenal started amazingly well. I'm not saying they're not going to win the title, because they are, I mean, right now they are clearly the favourites for the title, given Liverpool's insanely terrible run of losing 4 in a row. Arsenal are the favourites, of course they are. But at the same time, they can still be vanquished. Great question, Thunder. I was gonna do it when we were a third of the way through the season, just because I feel like that's a good sample of games. Because how many games is that? 38 is how many you play, so it's around 13, isn't it? I know that's not exactly. You can't divide 38 exactly by 3, though, can you? So it's gonna be around in around four games, there or thereabouts. So maybe in around 4 games time, we can review that and see how we're doing. Right now, it's looking very bad. And of course, we know our other players need to contribute. But I'm still not yet at the point where I'm thinking it's a fundamental issue. I do think that other players will be doing that soon. But I am definitely getting to that point now. Aston Villa is not going to be the game to turn me over to that sign of thinking, though. When Shirky comes back in, when Marmoush comes back in, I think that will really help us overall as a collective, and also them individually will be great. Who's getting 4th? Did I say Chelsea maximum 5th or maximum 4th? Because I might change my mind. I think I might say Chelsea to finish 4th again. If I did say that, I changed my mind. I'm going to say Chelsea 4th. It is similar, Akram. It is similar. And the what's it? Hey, at least last season we had the excuse of Rodri is Rodri was out, our key signing. We had no defensive midfielder, and it's not like we spent a load of money in the summer. We brought in Gundo on a free and Savio for peanuts and nothing else. Liverpool spent bare money, and that's happened to them. So, we haven't had an excuse yet. You're just stinky. You're just stinky boys over there in Merseyside. Hold that, yeah? Those stinkies. Oh, okay. I'm overtired, clearly. I'm going to wrap it up here, guys, I think. I'm devolving into saying stinky. Liverpool's excuse, they spent too much. Oh. Can you imagine? Sorry, Nintendo, we are about to wrap up. Go rewatch, though. I think it's been a good stream today. I think we've had lots of fun. I think it's been good. Guys, another on-sale battle pack has arrived for Lego. I'm going to build it. There will be a 5 observations from. So if you want a 60-second summation of my thoughts on the game, keep an eye out for that. We are going to be live on Twitch tonight. Tonight and Thursday. We will be live on Twitch, and on Wednesday, Swansea. Oh God, I'm so low. I might as well just be off the screen at that point. Swansea Watchalong also. I really hope you found value in this stream. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. I feel a lot better now because I was very concerned about the quality of my analysis video from yesterday. Still go give it a watch. I watched it. I feel a lot better having talked about everything with you guys today. So thank you very much for that and enabling me. I'll see you tonight on Twitch. The link for which is here, twitch.tv/LNobbins. Thank you so much for watching, as always. Big up to you. Big up to my members. You saw them on the Hall of Fame. And I'll catch you all tonight at Twitch at around 7 p.m, I'm going to say. Goodbye.